जयं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस ऑफ चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद ISKCON संस्थापकाचार्य savior of the whole world जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita Chapter 7 entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, text number 9. Punyaha Gandhaha Prithivya Cha Punyagandha Prithivya Cha Tejaha Cha Asmi Vibhavaso Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapaha Cha Asmi Tapasvishu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Prithivyamscha Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Prithivyamcha Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Prithivyamcha Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu
Punyagandha Prithivya Cha
Prithivyam Cha
Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso
Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso
Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu
Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu
Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu
Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Prithivyam Cha Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Prithivyam Cha Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Prithivyam Cha Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu. Adiji, Shweta Mataji.
Punyogandha Prithivyaam Cha
Punyogandha Prithivyam Cha
Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso
Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso
Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu
Jivanam sarvabhuteshu
Tapaschasmi tapasvishu.
tapaschasmi tapasvishu. Synonyms: punyaha, original; gandhaha, fragrance; prithivya, in the earth; cha, also; tejaha, temperature; cha, also; asmi, I am; vibhavaso, in the fire; jivanam, life; sarva, all; bhuteshu, living entities; tapaha, penance; cha, also; asmi, I am; tapasvishu, in those who practice penance. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Translation with repetition. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. And I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Punya means that which is not decomposed. Punya is original. Everything in the material world has a certain flavor or fragrance, as the flavor and fragrance in a flower or in the earth, in water, in fire, in air, etc. The uncontaminated flavor, the original flavor, which permeates everything, is Krishna. Similarly, everything has a particular original taste, and the taste can be charged, and this taste can be changed by the mixture of chemicals. So everything original has some smell, some fragrance, and some taste. Vibhava means fire. Without fire, we cannot run factories, we cannot cook, etc. And that fire is Krishna. The heat in the fire is Krishna. According to Vedic medicine, indigestion is due to a low temperature in the belly. So even for digestion, fire is needed. In Krishna consciousness, we become aware that earth, water, fire, air, and every active principle, all chemicals, and all material elements are due to Krishna. The duration of man's life is also due to Krishna. Therefore, by the grace of Krishna, man can prolong his life or diminish it. So Krishna consciousness is active in every sphere. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Why unnecessarily waste time? It didn't happen so long then. So what about Maharani? So this is a beautiful verse and spoken by Lord Krishna, and we are reading in chapter 7, which is entitled as Knowledge of the Absolute. And in this verse, Krishna is telling Punyo Gandha Prithivyamscha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapas Chasmi Tapasvishu. Krishna is telling who he is or what he is amongst few things. The first thing that is mentioned is Punya Gandha Prithivyamcha. Very interestingly, the word Punya is being translated by Prabhupada as original, not as pious. Punya Gandha Prithivyamcha. Prithivyam, in the earth, now it is drizzling and all of us can smell the earth, the fragrant earth. So the fragrance of the earth, Krishna is telling that is his, that is he. Punyo Gandha Prithivyamcha. Why it is original we will see, and how these words, unless we see it through a pure devotee spiritual master, we will not pay attention. Punyo Gandha Prithivyamcha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso is the heat in the fire. Prabhupada gives example, the fire is used for so many things. For cooking, for the factory, including our belly, where it is required for digestion. If there is a low digestion, then it is because of low temperature. So Krishna is telling, I am that fire, I am that temperature. Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso. Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu. I am the life of all living entities. Jivanam, life, Sarvabhuteshu, of all the living entities. Tapas Chasmi Tapasvishu. Sometimes people take pride in doing some kind of austerity, like we went for a Rath Yatra, we walked bare feet. Some might feel proud about that. Oh, I walked bare feet. I did Govardhan Parikrama. I was doing it barefoot. I did Nirjal Ekadashi without taking any water. But Krishna is telling Tapas Chasmi Tapasvishu, that the penance in the ascetics, it's he. Now, actually the purport is wonderful purport. Very small, very crisp, but to the point. And Prabhupada hammered something very important, which we should remember, but that we will only remember if we remember the title for this chapter. So the title for the chapter is Knowledge of the Absolute. It's not knowledge about some temporary things. It's not knowledge about the relative. It's knowledge about the Absolute. And if you remember, I had told the acronym which we had used some time back, HP34MB. And the H stands for hearing, P stands for perceiving the Lord. So first thing is, if you hear about the Lord from the perfect source, you will get complete knowledge. Once you get complete knowledge, you can perceive the Lord. So the first thing, in the first 3 verses, Krishna talks about the importance of hearing. And especially the second verse, if you see the verse, 7th chapter, 2nd verse, it says, Jnanam Teham Savijnanam Idam Vakshyami Aseshatah Yaj Gyatva Neha Bhuyo Anyaj Gyatavyam Avasishyati. Prabhupada translates this verse as Jnanam, and Vijnanam is phenomenal and nominal. But there is theoretical knowledge and realized knowledge. Jnanam Teham Savijnanam Idam Vakshyami Aseshatah. So I am going to explain you, this is in completeness, in totality, in full. This is not some ordinary person who is looking for some adoration or a cheat or a knave who doesn't know what he's talking and talking. This the Lord is telling. Jnanam Teham sa Vijnanam Idam Vakshyami Aseshatah Yaj Gyatva Neha Bhuyo Anyaj Gyatavyam Avasishyati. There is nothing else remains to be known. And Prabhupada writes in the purport of that verse, complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the spirit behind it. Actually, this material world has no meaning or has no sense if there is a spirit, if there is no spirit behind it. There is some shape, there is some order, there is something that you are seeing which is attractive. It is because there is a Jiva Bhuta, who is the marginal energy of the Lord, who is trying to make some permutation and combination, who is trying to do something. It doesn't happen. There are certain things which are happening by the Lord, Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriya. The seasons are changing, the flowers are blossoming, the fruits are coming in trees. All these things are happening naturally. That's by the auto mode of the Lord that it is happening. But there are things that you see, there is a beautiful building which is coming up, and if you're appreciating it, know that for sure it didn't happen on its own. There is a spirit behind it. Complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the spirit behind it. And Prabhupada concludes this purport when the cause of all causes becomes known. We all are trying to find out cause of various things. Why did this happen to me? How can I make it happen? What is the cause behind this particular phenomena? What is the effect? What is the cause? What caused this? We are interested in knowing. But if you know this knowledge, when the cause of all causes becomes known, then everything knowable becomes known. We want to know different things in life. I want to understand how does the SEO and SEM work, or how does some complicated programming in somebody's life, how does it work? I want to understand. But all that jigyasa, all that inquiry that I have, I want to know, will become known if I know the cause of all causes. When the cause of all causes becomes known, everything knowable becomes known, and nothing remains unknown. Why? How? Because Prabhupada is writing, the Vedas say, Yasmin Vigyate Sarvam Eva Vigyatam Bhavanti. If you know Krishna, the cause of all causes, everything that you see is actually his energies. So when it is knowledge of the absolute, these first three verses are very important, because if we hear this, then we will get a perfect understanding of who Supreme Lord is. Then we will understand what is that spirit behind the matter. And once we understand the Lord, the spirit behind the matter, who's running, who's making these things happen, we will be able to perceive them. The first example that is given here is Punya Gandha Prithivyam Cha. Very beautiful translation by Prabhupada. He's saying the original fragrance. And I was seeing this one lecture which Prabhupada has given. He's talking about the difference between a synthetic fragrance and an original fragrance. You may use some deo, perfume or something. It gives you a fragrance. But that is not long lasting. It doesn't last for long. It's a synthetic. It is produced from some chemicals. It's not original. But here is the fragrance which comes from Mother Earth. That's original. What does original mean? I'm not able to understand what is the fragrance of earth that you are talking about, if somebody says. Now look at the beautiful flowers which blossoms. Today, when we were going in the morning, Srinidhi Mataji was telling that there are some extra fragrant roses, something like that she told, or extremely fragrant roses. And there are some roses which are fragrant. It is sold like that, it seems. And there are something which are roses. So where does this fragrance come from? If you take Mother Earth, doesn't have really fragrance when it is not raining. I can't smell the earth. I'm taking a seed, no fragrance. I'm taking some water and putting it in that, no fragrance. But when the flower comes, when the tree blossoms, there is a flower. Not only fragrance, so beautiful color. Where does it come from? People say it is coming from nature. Prabhupada says they are foolish. How can it be by nature? On its own, it happened. Some people say, I will try to capture how it happened, so I will put some CCTV cameras and see if in the night something is happening. If there is some transformation which is happening when I'm asleep, I will capture it in the camera. You can't capture it. This is coming by the will of the Lord. The Lord is making it happen. There is no reason. There is no other explanation to this. No scientists, no botanists, nobody can explain. In that seed lies all the mystery which the Lord, when He wants, Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriya, there is a nice flower which comes out, and in a particular plant, there is that flower which comes which has a fragrance. There could be another plant which is next to that. Same earth, same water, similar looking seed, but no fragrance. So Punya Gandha, the original fragrance of this comes from the Lord. Today we had gone for a Rath Yatra festival to one place in Rhode Island, and interestingly, those people they brought the deities in a car, and they asked us to do some kirtan and take the deities and keep it in a place. We took out the deities, we had some kirtan. They kept the deities in one place, and they sat back to the deities, and then there was a stage. They started dancing, and something happened. Started shouting, and then after that there was a Rath Yatra procession where more than people participating in Ratha or Kirtan, they were busy taking selfies with the Lord. Whichever pose, I think the whole festival, the Ratha procession got delayed because they were taking selfies and they were taking so many photographs. They just wanted photographs with the Lord. What it shows is that sometimes even though the Vigraha or the Archa Murti of the Lord is present before our eyes, we can't even see him. We can't even understand that the Lord is present there. I remember there's a purport. If you get time, read this 3.1.17. Very interesting purport. There Prabhupada mentions that these forms are called Archamurtis. He is referring to the deities. These forms are called Archamurtis or forms of the Lord which can be easily appreciated by the common man. The Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. What does this word transcendental to our mundane senses means? What it means is that another name of the Lord is Adhukshaja. That means with my eyes, with my ears, with my nose, with my tongue, with my mind, I can perceive the Lord. How? Let's take example. When Krishna in 7.4, he says, Bhumirapo nalavayu kham mana buddhirevacha ahankara itiyam me bhinna prakriti rashtada. He says, these are my separated energies. And he starts with Bhumi, which is gross, which has got all the five senses possible in this. You can touch it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can hear it. What is the other thing? See it. All five is possible. Actually, it starts with ether, which is the subtlest, which we can't see, which we can't feel, which we can hear it. The sound transmits through the ether. Then comes air. So air is little more gross compared to ether, where sound is present and touch is present. You can feel it. Then comes fire, where sound is present, touch is present, and form is there. You can see it. Then comes water, where there is sound is present, touch is present, form is present, and there is taste. Then comes earth, where everything is present. In the separated energies, in the gross, they're all sthula. There are five pancha mahabhutas. In that ether itself, we are not able to perceive. Then subtler than this five is mind, intelligence, false ego. How will we perceive it? We can't perceive our intelligence is there or not there. How much intelligence is there? A yardstick. I've got this much of intelligence. Somebody has got this much of intelligence. Somebody has got very less. I can't perceive it. I can't see it. I can't know it. And the Lord is even beyond this. Beyond this. So that's why he is Adhokshaja. So here Prabhupada is writing, the Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. He cannot be seen with our present eyes, nor can he be heard with our present ears. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion that our lives are freed from sins, we can perceive the Lord. We are talking about this portion where we are trying to perceive the Lord. How many of us knew that, when we drink water, the taste of the water is Krishna? Only after coming in touch with Krishna consciousness that we got this knowledge. Right now, sometimes in my house, we have a dispenser, water dispenser, which is connected to a filter, AquaGuard. So in that AquaGuard, when I had gone last time, I have put there Rasoham Apsukon there. At least a common person who's seeing that, he'll remember that, okay, this taste of water is Krishna. Or all these things that Krishna is telling, to be able to perceive that, as Prabhupada is saying, to be able to perceive that the Lord is present in Archa Vigraha, two things are required. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, first thing. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord. If there is no service, it's a armchair philosophy. You come, you hear, you like it, you take it, you don't like it, or you like it, you don't implement it, you go back, and something goes on. You never get a taste for it. You never understand that I'm doing it for the Lord. To the degree a person has entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion that our lives are freed from sins. Second condition. To the proportion our lives are freed from sins. Yesham to antagatam papam jananam punya karmana. Te dvanda moha nirmuktam bhajante mam dridhabrata. Dridhabrata, if really one wants to. And sometimes he wonders, why am I not getting taste? Why am I not getting that determination? That's because the sinful lives have not come to an end. Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmana. The word punya also is used there. This word punya is often misused, misunderstood. Which is that Srinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. There also the word punya is used. And that punya is definitely different from this punya that original materialistic people say of doing charity or accumulating pious credit. It is different. It's that here Prabhupada is saying it is original. It is always related to spirit. It is always related to something which is going to endure. Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is related to our spirit, spiritual soul. Spirit soul which is covered with all this avadras. Where that was? This. No, first line, which I just. Srinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. Srinvata Swakatha Krishna. When we hear Krishna's glories, Punya Shravana Kirtana. Even if it is for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, that time we are actually saving in conquering over the process of birth and death. It's a very powerful thing. Then Prabhupada, so these two things we have to remember if we really want to perceive the Lord in different ways. There are many ways as Krishna is going to tell, and it is not in any particular order or anything. He is telling Punya Gandha Prithibhyamcha. When you see this fragrance, not just from the earth, even from a fragrant rose, know for sure that the fragrance is Krishna. We can perceive that. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing Him in His Archa Murtis in the temple. Can we be sinless completely? Can the desire to commit sins in our heart completely be gone? Not so easy. But even if you are not 100% sinless, the Lord is still merciful and He appears in the form of Archa Murti. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing Him in Archa Murti, in the temple. The Lord is all powerful and therefore He is able to accept our service by presentation of His Archa form. The Lord is all powerful and therefore He is able to accept our service. He wants us. This is our constitutional question. Somehow, yena tena prakarana, somehow you do some service. He will take that. He will accept it. The Lord is all powerful and therefore He is able to accept our service by presentation of His Archa form. No one therefore should foolishly think the Archa in the temple to be an idol. Such Archa Murti is not an idol but the Lord Himself. And to the proportion that one is free from sins, he is able to know the significance of the Archa Murti. The guidance of a pure devotee is therefore always required. In Bhagavatam, there is a mention of a king by name Pruthu, who is actually an incarnation of the Lord. Mother Earth is supposed to give all the necessities, not just fragrant flowers, whatever we need. If we are Krishna conscious, if we are sinless, if we are pious, and if we are doing our duties diligently, Mother Earth will provide all our necessities. It is mentioned that Prithu Maharaj, when he was ruling, there was a lot of prosperity. But there was a time when Mother Earth was not supplying all the necessities, and he got angry. He was about to chastise Mother Earth. Then she appeared in folded hands and she told, actually, if the people are not Krishna conscious, then there is going to be problem. Like there is famine, there is drought, or there is pestilence. All these things happen where the necessities are not being supplied. It happens only when people are sinful, or they are engaging in sinful activities in their life. Then these are all withdrawn by Mother Earth. Same thing is spoken in the prayers of Kunti Maharani, where he says that Supak Vosadhi, what is that verse? Anybody remembers? He Dhanvanti that. Ime Janapada Swardha, Supak Vosadhi Viruddha, Vanadri Nadi Udanvanto, He Edhante Tavavekshite. All the cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits. The rivers are flowing. The hills are full of minerals and the oceans full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over there. Just because the Lord has glanced, this is all happening. Interestingly, the Lord's glance can act in different ways. For material energy, for material things, they start flourishing. But the same Lord, when He casts His glance in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it is mentioned, Pashyaitam, what is it? Not that one. That where Krishna is telling Pashyan, look at these people who have assembled here. Hmm? What is it? सेनयोर उभयोर्मध्ये रथं स्थापयामि अच्युत एतावत् एतान् निरीक्ष्येऽहं योद्धु कामान् अवस्थितान् कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम् अस्मिन् रणसंयुद्धे. Not this one, where the Lord is telling. Just behold, Partha. Bhishma Drona Pramukhatah Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam Uvacha Partham Pasyaitan Samavetan Kuruniti. Actually, by the glance of the Lord, people who were sinful, their lives automatically diminished. Because they were sinful, just by the glance of the Lord, when the Lord looked at them, their lives got diminished. That's what our Acharyas commented. Anyway, so this material earth can produce all the necessities if a person is Krishna conscious. If a person is not Krishna conscious, then if he's sinful, then everything is taken away. There is a nice story of one devotee by name anybody knows what is his name? Hmm? I have not told anything what you will guess. There is Krishna book story. I can talk about one. There was a king by name Salva. Salva's name is mentioned. What was he doing? Why Salva was he doing any austerity? Yeah, yes, in a story we will killed by Krishna definitely because it's there in Krishna. What was he doing? No, okay, you think. I'll come to Salva. Huh? He was eating earth. He was doing austerity. He was cutting his bodies. Hair. Mixing. Okay, you think about it. Salva will come in the last one where it is mentioned tapas chasmi tapas vishu. Here the devotee that I am talking about, his name is Sena Navi. Anybody has heard of Panduranga Vithala? It's a story of a Vithala devotee. Why I am saying this is very interesting because this devotee was a barber. Because of his some past bad karma, he didn't have a good birth and he was born as a barber. And he was doing this service of barber. One day the king of that kingdom called upon this barber, Senanavi, to come and do service for himself. So he went, and once you become the barber of the king, automatically you lose other opportunities. You are not able to do any other, you can't serve other people. So he was going and doing it for the king. For all important occasions, the king would ask him to come, and he would not only do a haircut, he'll also massage the Lord and dress him. And that's how the Lord will go for that important function. One day, what happened? This Senanavi, he was also a devotee, so he was coming to do this service for the king on a very important day, where the king had some very important function where he wanted to get dressed well and wanted to be ready and go for that. This Senanavi could not come. And why he could not come? Because when he was coming from his house to the royal palace, on the way actually there was a kirtan procession which was going on. And the kirtan was so enchanting to a person who's able to perceive the Lord, that the Lord is present in this kirtan. He's not there in other places, he's there where the devotees are glorifying him. He got completely absorbed and he forgot that he has to go to the royal palace. In that kirtan only he went somewhere. And then after a long time, when a lot of time was passed, he went back to his house and realized that if he goes to the palace, the king is going to punish him. So with a lot of fear and apprehension, he goes to the palace and says, "Oh king, please forgive me. I just could not come." And he was bowing down like this, his head, and he was standing there. And the king was astonished. He said, "What are you saying? You actually were present today, right time. And the massage that you gave me today, I was feeling transcendental pleasure, transcendental joy. Never ever in my life I have had that kind of an experience. And when I came to the palace today, everything strange was happening. I was only narrating some transcendental pastimes of the Lord. I could not discuss anything mundane material affairs." So when Senanavi heard that, and he said, "I didn't come, then who has come?" So it was actually the Lord who came because he got absorbed in this. Yoga Kshema Mahamya. Actually, if we serve the Lord full heartedly, with devotion, the Lord provides everything that we lack and preserves what we have. Anyway, Punya Gandha Prithibhyamscha, that is the first thing that that Krishna is telling in this. Then Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso. He's also the fire. We don't realize whatever different kinds of food that we are putting in, how it is getting digested. Or what is it? Sometimes we take this medicine, that medicine, we change our diet. What is happening? Actually, Ayurveda always talks about the Jatragni, the fire that is there in our belly, that can digest any amount of food, any complex, whatever that food is, it can digest provided your Jatragni is fine. But Krishna is telling, I am the heat, I am the temperature in that fire. Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu. This is very interesting. Is the life of all living entity. Now, how do we understand this? I was thinking about this one when it came. There is a nice story which comes in Krishna. I will ask question because you all said that you read Krishna book. So there is a episode in Krishna book which comes where one demon was killed by Krishna, but that was not shared to Brajavasis for 1 year. Right? Why that happened? Okay.
Not shared because actually stolen away of the cows. Why is not stolen them?
So Parikshit got that. Why 1 year this was not shared? And when he asked, Sukadeva Goswami says that. Very interestingly, I'll read a portion from Krishna book. Very interesting thing. So once Lord Brahma, just to examine the potency of Krishna, took away all the calves and cowherd boys and kept them in a secluded place. When Krishna was unable to find, why you have to play that thing or sound here? Was this water? When Krishna was unable to find the calves and boys, he could understand this was a trick performed by Lord Brahma. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, in order to teach Lord Brahma, as well as to please his own associates and their mothers, expanded himself to become the calves and boys, exactly as they were before. A special feature of this pastime was that the mothers of the cowherd boys became more attached to their respective sons, who were actually expanded from forms of Lord Krishna, and the cows became more attached to their calves. Every day they found new inspiration for loving their children, as much as they loved Krishna. Because of an increase of affection, the cows had constant attachment even to those calves that were grown up and had stopped sucking milk from their mothers. Even the cows actually the calves, when they are drinking milk, the cows are more attached. But even if they have grown up, still the cows got attached. Now when Bhagavatam, this pastime comes, there is a question which Parikshit is asking in the 10th canto. On hearing this wonderful phenomenon, Maharaj Parikshit inquired, during the absence of the original cowherd boys, when Krishna expanded himself, why is it that the boys' parents became more loving towards him than toward their own sons? Also, why did the cows become so loving towards the calves more than toward their own calves? Question is clear? Can I question it?
Why did the mothers become more affectionate to the children now than their own children?
Yeah. And very interestingly, Prabhupada gives, Sukadeva Goswami answers, Prabhupada has captured that in Krishna book. You can see this. Very wonderful answer for this, which is talking about Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu. Can you tell me, every living entity in this world is attached to which thing or which one the most? Parents? Oneself? Family? No, one. The most. सोच के बोलो रक्षक, 2 सेल्फ आ चुका है. Protection, family. Who is attached to super soul in this world? How do you know about super soul when you are living in this material world? Self, sense enjoyment. 5 answer दे चुके हैं अभी तक. और 5 answer, 1 has to be correct in there. The answer is right. Actually, everybody is attached to the self the most. Every living entity is actually most attached to his own self. Outward paraphernalia such as home, family, friends, country, society, wealth, opulence, all this whatever Madhav you told, and reputation are all secondary in pleasing the living entity. They please only because they bring pleasure to the self. Prabhupada's writing, they please only because they bring pleasure to the self. A person who has no information of the spirit soul is very much attached to material body. So much so that even in old age, he wants to preserve the body in so many artificial ways, thinking that his old and broken body can be saved. When one is further advanced, so when somebody doesn't have any information of the soul, even in his old age, he's trying to protect the body because he's thinking this is the self, and one is always attached to his own self the most. When one is further advanced, he knows that the attachment to the body is there only because I, the spirit soul, is within the body. This is little more advanced. I am attached to this body because I is present, that spirit soul is present. But Prabhupada is saying when one is still more advanced, he knows that the spirit soul is pleasing because it is part and parcel of Krishna. Why we are attached to this? Because it is part and parcel of Krishna, it is more pleasing. Ultimately, it is Krishna who's pleasing and all attractive. He is the super soul of everything. Without being an expansion of Krishna, nothing can be attractive. The active principle of everything is Krishna, and highly elevated transcendentalists see everything in connection with him. Jivanam sarva bhuteshu. Actually, if the super soul is not present, then the soul and the body cannot be staying together because they are different matter. It's like oil and water. You're trying to mix it. They can never be mixed. They are completely different things. It's only because of the presence of the super soul that the soul and body are together. Jivanam sarvabhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu. The last one which Krishna says is, I am the austerity. Right? Tapaschasmi tapasvishu. The ascetics when they perform any kind of austerities. Salva story. Anybody remembers what is the story of Salva? Homework is to find out what is the story of Salva in Krishna book. Why he was doing certain kind of austerities where he was actually getting a benediction from Lord Shiva. He was finished by Krishna. It's all correct, but he was doing an austerity which was not meant to please the Supreme Lord. Austerity was also performed by Hiranyakashipu. Severe austerities, never been heard of that kind of an austerity. But that austerity is useless because it was not meant to please the Supreme Lord. That austerity or that inconvenience, voluntary inconvenience, which we do to please the Lord, if the objective is not to please the Lord, that austerity is useless. That is why Rishabdev, in his instruction to his 100 sons, he says, Tapo divyam putraka yena suddhyet sattvam cha suddhyet. Tapo divyam putraka suddhyet. So that tapa, that austerity that we do, actually human life is meant for that tapa, which is meant to please the Supreme Lord. That will purify our existence. That austerity, if we do, that is pleasing to the Supreme Lord, then it will purify our existence and we can experience that transcendental happiness. But Krishna says, tapaschasme tapasvishu. If you see that there is a tapasvi, there is an ascetic who is doing some austerity, he is able to perform that, he is able to bear that. Don't think that he's doing something great. That tapa is me. That ability to do that tapa is nothing but me. So all these things, when Krishna is explaining, he's telling this, it will only make sense. We can only understand this if we see this, the verse that I mentioned, Jnanam cha Vijnanam, Jnanam teham sa Vijnanam, idam vakshyami aseshata. If we hear from proper source, if we know what is this absolute truth all about, if we pay attention to this, if we hear from bona fide source, if we get that understanding right, then we can understand the knowledge of the absolute and we can perceive Krishna. Otherwise, it will not happen. That is why, people can read different schools of religion, schools of thoughts, can argue and can say, well, this is like this in this particular religion or this particular scripture. This is like that, the supreme absolute truth is like that in some other scripture, but you can never come to a conclusion. Tarko apratishto shrutayo vibhinna naso rishiryasya matim na bhinna dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatasya pantha. Tarko apratishto shrutayo vibhinna. You can come to different kinds of conclusion by reading different books. You can argue, but you can never come to any conclusion. Naso rishiryasya matam na bhinna. So many people can say, this is how, as per my understanding, this is how somebody may say, this is how it is. But to really understand the confidential aspect of dharma, dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. It is there in the heart of pure devotees. Mahajano yena gatasya pantha. When they reveal it, when they share it, people like us, fools, rascals, having a lot of ego to understand this, if we just follow in their footsteps, Mahajano yena gatasya pantha, then we can get it. There is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita also which says, if you are able to remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whatever is most difficult, Duskaram also becomes Sukaram, becomes easily understandable. If you forget Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whatever is most easily doable also becomes very, very difficult. Very difficult. So the whole point is, if we become Krishna conscious, we can perceive the presence of Krishna, perceive the presence of the Lord in every single action. For example, we can see that this laptop, maybe with some matter, earth and water, to some extent it is mixed, and then maybe in some fire it is burnt, and ultimately we are using it for Krishna's service. So I know that this is Krishna's energy which is present in front of me. This can only happen if you see what Krishna is trying to say, that there is nothing in this material world which is separate from him. It's all his energies. What is that verse? Parasya Saktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriya. Parasya Saktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. When we are driving the car, we put it in auto mode. We have to manually put it in auto mode, then it goes in an auto mode for certain distance. Again, when you press the brake, then it comes back to a normal distance. The Lord doesn't have to do that auto mode time and again. He puts it in an auto mode. Everything happens as per His will, as per His desire. At a certain time, the seasons change. At a certain time, the seed becomes a big tree, and the big tree has flowers, changes colors. Everything happens in auto mode. But people who do not see that there is a person who is behind that, Mayadhyakshana Prakriti Suyati sa Charachara, they say it is happening by nature. But the nature is acting under the direction of the Supreme Lord. So stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. Hare Krishna Mataji, Sarada Mataji, I didn't.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I'm so sorry I joined so late.
I didn't know what time you done. There was some issue today, we could not go live on YouTube. Any question, any comments, any corrections?
So I have a question. What is the importance of taking austerities? Each person can do different levels of austerity. So how much should a person take austerity?
So the austerity is something which is mentioned that human beings should take. Where it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita? Okay, I'll give you a hint. In 4th chapter, do you know anywhere it is mentioned? 17th chapter also it is there, austerity and modes of goodness. Gita. Gita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. 3 things he says, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Gita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Manmaya, Mam Upashrita. They thought of me, Mam Upashrita. They took shelter of me. Baho, many people before you. Jnana tapasa, using this transcendental knowledge and using austerity. Austerity, there is no upper limit as to how much you have to do. But the important thing is if your intention is not correct and you are doing austerity, then you lose it. You're losing it. Yeah. So tapo divyam, the idea of doing austerity is it is pleasing to Krishna. So even when you are not doing something at house and coming and doing something in the temple, it could be an austerity. You probably want to do that, you like doing that, but you are doing this because you know that this is going to please Krishna. It's an austerity. So when we increase that austerity, it satisfies or it purifies our heart. It frees us from the lower modes of material nature. Tapo divyam putraka suddhyet. Suddhyet, that sattva becomes suddhyet. By tapo, by doing that austerity. There is no upper limit. If you see the examples of all these Goswamis, they never used to live under one tree even for more than 2 nights. And they used to do parikrama of Govardhan even in an advanced stage. Haridas Thakur never gave up his chanting of prescribed rounds, which used to take 22 hours. So these are all examples of great austerities which the Acharyas or the Goswamis have performed, just to set example how this is so dear to the heart. Because if we don't do even little austerity in our life, then we will hear to our mind and mind's dictation and justification that is nothing but sense gratification.
Right, yes. But even here, some people, like you said, will do Nirjal Ekadashi, will pray for Dasa. So, but some people can't even attempt. So, is that the right thing for a person to aspire to do Nirjal Ekadashi?
Yeah, so ultimately, if the person who is doing Nirjal Ekadashi feels pride that I have done Nirjal, then the purpose of doing Nirjal Ekadashi is gone. Rather, if a person is not able to do, but he is taking something, but he is spending his time in doing Krishna service, increasing his devotional activities, is far superior. But that doesn't mean that you should not aspire for doing it. So, in the name of I'll have pride, or I give, not even trying and saying that my body is like that, I'm not fit for doing that. That's also not right. How do you know you're not fit for that? We can all do fasting till midnight on Janmashtami days, right? So many of us we do. We don't feel any difficulty or any challenge or anything of that sort. How we are able to do that on that day? So extremes are not good. When the objective is clear in a person's mind that I'm doing it for pleasing Krishna because this is dear to Krishna, this day I'm fasting or I'm doing some austerity, then that is the right mood. If it is not done in the right mood and it is it is making you more proud, then better not to do it.
To start, one can just follow the principles of Sadananda, okay, whatever is laid down for us, basic things, and then go up. Like Ekadashi right now, we are saying no agreements. That's where it stops. So if you can do more, you can do more.
Yeah.
That's like
Upavasa means to bring you close to the Supreme Lord. So if you want really, ultimately this eating, sleeping, mating and defending, these four things take away our time and energy. They are not needed for us, for the soul. But we make elaborate arrangement for that. We sleep for a long time, comfortable bed. We eat varieties of items, still our tongue is not satisfied. Mating and defending, all these are, they take away. So that's why our Nidra, Hara, Vihara, Vijito. Goswami are the ones who have conquered their senses. So that is austerity. Nidra, Ahara, Vihara, Vijito. They don't feel, oh, I'm missing so much. They rather lament that मेरा इतना time चला गया सोने में. Genuinely, not artificially to show, अरे time चला गया मैं सोना आज मैं 4 घंटा ज़्यादा सो गया. This is the people who say they are just saying it just to get some accolades. They genuinely feel. We can't even think of Krishna all throughout the day. And even during the time when we are doing devotional service, the primary devotional service, that time also Krishna is not there in our forefront. So many things are going on. Indirect devotional service, the rest of the day, whatever we are doing, to think of Krishna is very difficult, unless when we are doing the direct devotional service, we are keeping Krishna in the forefront. Otherwise, it's impossible. That is why chanting come hearing, concurrent hearing. When you are doing mindfully present that I am sitting in front of the Lord, mindful of all the actions that I am doing. It's not just very casual about singing the song. I should meditate on the meaning. Every single activity that I am doing in front of the Lord, I should be watchful and mindful. Then there is a chance that your consciousness will be so good, you'll be thinking about Krishna even in your indirect services. Otherwise, if direct services, Krishna is there in the background, indirect services is out of the sight. It's not there. It's all something else is going. Good or bad? Anything?
And not just a comment in the Mangalarti song, I always think of the meaning. Sometimes I start thinking of each word meaning and I lose that, forget what I should sing next. That happens to me in just observation. I skip some, I forget, oh, next line this is coming, but because I'm thinking of the meaning of the song, of that line, and I tend to miss.
Being mindful is always doing one thing at a time. Parallel activities never work. You can never do two things at the same time and give attention to both the activities. So it has to be done in all spheres of our life. If it is not done, then guaranteed a person will miss out. Somewhere something will happen. A person who is more organized, more disciplined, will have time for everything and he'll do one thing at a time. Okay, no questions. If there is anyone who wants to come in front of camera, please come. Otherwise, no problem. We will chant once Hare Krishna mantra and stop prayer. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे. हरे कृष्ण. You reached, Prabhu? Sukirti Prabhu? You're on mute.
Yes, Prabhu. I did, Prabhu.
Okay, good.
finally reached our country.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.